Welcome to the She Slays the Day podcast with Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. Direct, soulful, comedic, advice for female chiropractors' most stagnating questions. Let's talk business, marriage and relationships, momming, and self-development. Here's your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Lauryn, and you are listening to the She Slays the Day podcast, and I am super happy you're here. And Kirby is back with me.
I'm always here.
You are actually in the room most of the time when I'm recording.
Yeah, I just try and stay quiet. But if you ever hear like clicking, it's because my computer's on the other side of the wall.
And then I turn and give you a death stare.
She really does.
Last episode, you were twirling that pen that's in your hand right now, and it squeaked. And did you see me?
I just threw it across the room because I know I'm going to twist it.
Give you the death glare of like, twist that pen again and I will shove it in an orifice. Okay, so this is part 2. Okay, if you can't read titles, or
Student
this
Loans
is maybe
2
automated.
Electric Boogaloo. Can I name it that?
What did you name it?
Student Loans 2 Electric Boogaloo?
No. No, you cannot name it that. Oh. You're gonna name it that.
You don't know how to edit the.
I don't know how to edit a podcast.
So.
Go back and listen to episode 1. I mean, you don't really have to, but I would highly recommend listening to episode.
We are not
part
recapping.
1.
This is going to be a lot
ain't
of
recapping shit.
Yeah, this episode is predicated on you have listened to 1, you agree with our general philosophy, and now this is the how-to.
I mean, they don't have to like totally agree.
You have to agree with this. I want you to raise your right hand.
No, I think that even if you were like, okay, I listened to that. I did my homework because we gave them homework. And I talked to my husband or I talked to my financial advisor because damn girl, get it. In 1 week you did all that? Like impressive. And you're like, and I'm not going to do it. I'm still going to do the 25-year thing. That's cool. I still think you can get a lot out of this.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is in general advice for paying down any debt for managing your finances. So it's not.
Yeah, and I have referenced multiple times that I am like a big fan of scrappy living. Mm-hmm. So you can live your best life. No, like, so, anyways, we're not going to go into that and everything. Because, like, well, people ask, like, people give us crap all the time about how much we travel. And I'm like, okay, first of all, and I wave that finger. First of all, we paid off our loans. Second of all, we live pretty darn small everywhere else because traveling and seeing the world is so important. It's not like a nice thing. It is like
it's a high priority to us.
It's a high priority. It's not like, oh, I just want to. It's like, well, everybody wants to not be at work and travel. We have made that a priority and so therefore live small. It's just not as fun to show you pictures on Instagram of me living small, bitches. Anyways. Hashtag Lauryn. I don't know. Hashtag Lauryn. I don't know why I said that.
Hashtag living small. We'll just like start posting things that you're sad about of like, I'm drinking my own coffee instead of going to a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Hashtag small living.
Yeah. One thing we don't talk about in strategy to small living. Live in a town where there's no exciting restaurants to go to. So therefore, you're a better, so you just cook your own meals.
My car's a 2006 car that's fully paid off that I have no interest in buying another car. It has 200,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
So.
Hashtag living small. Mm-hmm. Okay. So before we jump into strategy, it is time to do a listener highlight. And I'm going to keep, I swear I didn't make this one up, but I am going to, it's vulnerable. And so I'm going to keep the name private, but she'll know who she is. So it says, this is a DM. So you who knows who you are, if you felt like going to Apple Podcasts and putting this as an actual review, I'd hook you up with some stickers. You'll have to DM me your address. But so this is from an unknown female to you all. It says, I just want to say I've been going through such a rough time with practicing because I left a toxic workplace and then my boyfriend broke up with me at the same time. I've slowly started again listening to your podcast and it's been helping me raise my vibration. Thank you for making this podcast. You guys, that is the shit that I love.
That is awesome.
Just like I was going on with my Monday, like, man, today's a day. And then I get that. And it just.
That makes it all worthwhile.
It makes me happy. So, shall we pray?
Let's pray.
Okay.
Dear God, thank you again for the opportunity to talk on this very important issue. Please be with everyone who is listening to this and feels despair and is feeling buried by such a big problem. Again, help us bring them hope and mirth and light, and know that ultimately, while this is a worldly problem that needs to be faced, it is not who we are. Our money is not who we are, and our connection with you, our connection with each other is the most important thing. And know that they're surrounded by love and encouragement from us and from all the people around them, and to focus on what's truly important, and be content in what truly matters, which is your love and the connection with other people. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. 3 things. 1, I got distracted because I don't know what mirth is.
Mirth is like joy and happiness and levity.
I've never heard that word before in my life.
Mirth? Do you want me? I'll get you a definition. Hold on.
Mirth?
Is
it related
Did I mention
to
how good I
mirth?
did on my SAT verbals?
Is that like, so that's got to have a root language connected to myrrh then, right? Because they're like the same. Second of all, as I got distracted during your prayer of what the heck is mirth? Did he say mirth or worth? Then it got really sweet. That was really sweet. You're right. We're not defined by how much money we make. And, like last episode, we talked about how we had to pay $10,000. Like, there are people who heard that and probably thought literally thought less of themselves and their worth because they couldn't make a $10,000 payment. And that sucks. And God doesn't want that.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Do not. Whenever we say those things, we're saying a thing that happened to us. And while we are proud of that, we by no means are saying that we are better or you are worse. Everyone's situation is so different. And you always have to remember, too, a lot of people who are in this situation are in this weird time of life between 25 and 40, probably, as a lot of our listeners.
Yep.
And you see all the things around you, and you see all the people who are #killing it, because we live in an Instagram world of everyone just brags about the good things they do, and they don't show you all the bad stuff. And you forget that life is long, and you forget that a lot of people don't have their stuff figured out, and you forget that some of the people who you think are great, who it seems like they always had it made, didn't find their footing until they were 45 or 50 or whatever. Don't get too bogged down in this. Hopefully our advice helps and it is somewhat relatable, but if it's not relatable to you right now, don't think it won't be in 5 years. You're taking the first step on a long journey.
Yeah. Third thing. It kind of goes right into stuff though. So tithing. Okay, we're not going to talk about tithing, but the idea of, we didn't plan on talking about this, so sorry to surprise you. But when we were paying back our loans, we were making donations.
Yep, we still gave.
Yeah, we still
gave to
gave.
the church. We gave to a lot to our communities. We were sponsor at the Boys and Girls Club.
So I ain't going to tell you what to do. By no means. But what I will say coming off the prayer, and this is literally for only the people who need to hear this, of giving while you have this goal, I believe is still very important.
Yeah, I mean, especially people of faith community, kind of ties back into who we are and what is truly valuable to us. We've talked about how we set these goals as what was important to us. It didn't always make the most financial sense. And definitely giving 10% of our income, or more than that, doesn't make financial sense if you're saying, I need to pay down my loans. That's a spiritual thing. That's a faith thing. That's, so our church talks about 10, 10, 80. Is a philosophy they have. 10% is giving, tithing. 10% is saving and building wealth. And 80% is living on that and finding contentment in that.
I would say during this time, if you had to break down the suggestions Kirby and I are going to say, so 10% was giving, 10% was saving. So where's bills in this?
80% is in the 80. You live on that and you find contentment.
Okay. So
So they're saying the second 10 of like the saving is like retirement and like.
Now we didn't really do that.
We didn't do aggressive on retirement. We did do some just because it was, especially in the beginning when we were income based, it helped to reduce what our income looked like. So it made those payments lower at the beginning. And then I personally had a strong inclination towards. So we did do retirement, not as much as we could have, but we did do some retirement even during the student loan repayment.
Okay. Because that's a big thing that, if you did your homework. So because compound interest, when I graduated, I was 24. So we paid off the loans by the time I was 30.
Yep.
And I think that's probably why we set that year, that I wanted them gone. But we kind of knew okay, we're putting away money into savings or into retirement, not as much as we could be in my 20s, but come 30, we still felt like we had time. If you're graduating at 30 and you have, and I'm not age shaming anybody by any means, but the reality is that you might not be able to, paying off in 5 years might not be a reasonable goal if you are, because you need, the whole key to retirement is putting as much money away as early as possible. So you just got to kind of do
and that gets back to what we said last week of know your numbers and know what your preferences are.
Yep.
If you say I need to have X amount in the bank, or if you're talking to an advisor and they go, well, your loans are at 6% interest and the market generally grows at 10%, it doesn't make sense to do what you want to do, which is pay them all down. That's ultimately going to be up to you. It is not, if it was pure numbers, if we were just able to do exactly what the numbers said, it would work different. That would be an easier equation, but that still does involve some estimates on things.
Again,
but
the episode is paying off your student loans.
Yeah.
And we did. So here we are.
Boom. The definition of mirth is gaiety or jollity, especially when accompanied by laughter. Funny.
Any connection to myrrh? Myrrh's not funny.
I don't know. It's not spelled with a Y like myrrh.
Oh,
It's
mirth is
Mirth.
Oh, so it's probably not the same. Although I do have now in my head that one of the wise men laid down myrrh and was like, get it? It's a joke.
It's a joke. I'm gonna edit that out.
Okay, fine. Edit my shit out. Okay, so let's talk about keys to paying this off.
Okay, so quick summary. You graduated with $175,000.
$176,
$176, sorry. Then we did income-based repayment for a year and a half.
Yep.
Found out that we owed over $180 then.
Oops.
Because the income the interest keeps calculating and keeps growing. So then when we did a look at it and realized that we were going to pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands, $300 and some $1,000, and still end up paying it off before anything would be forgiven, we said, let's get rid of this.
Get after it.
Let's attack it. So with that in mind, let's just talk a little about what we did, kind of the keys.
So you started with a good calculator. That's another important kind of thing. And some spreadsheets of figuring out if we pay, we basically set a deadline.
Yep.
We set a timeline. And so the timeline is going to be different for everybody. So basically for ours, it was, okay, we're going to pay $3,000 a month for this many months. Then we're going to up it to $3,500, then up it to $4,000, then up it to $4,500. So whatever you can do, but find a good calculator and it will tell you okay, you will pay off your loans in 71 months. And then print that shit. That is this is your new guidebook.
Yep. And the key with that thing of actually being able to increase your payments over time makes it more approachable, because if you just look at it as paying it off in 5 years, you might get a crazy big number that right now you can't do. You might get a number I would need to pay $5,000 a month, and you go, well, I could do $2,500 a month right now, but I can't do $5,000. That's okay. you can still probably pull it off if, as your business grows, your payment grows. So maybe it is $2,500 right now, but next year it's $3,500. The next year it's $5,500. The next year it's, like you're going to have to, nothing's free. If you know that the average is 5,000 and you can only do 2,500 now, know that at the end of your 5-year plan, it's going to be 7,000 a month.
Yeah.
And that sounds super scary, but you also can't understand of how, as your business grows, it might just be possible. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that you do that.
Yeah. So get your calculator, figure out your timeline that like you're going to go for, and everything is they're goals, but then print it and like, or maybe you're not you don't, but like literally hold on to it. Don't exit out of the window, because then like 9 months from now, you're going to be like, I don't know. Like it's going to hold you accountable, where you said like, oh snap. I said that December of 2020, I was upping my payment $500. So it's just this accountability piece.
And that needs to be in your mind too, because when it is December of 2020 and you're going like, oh, I am going to buy some nice extra Christmas presents. It was a pretty good year.
No, you ain't, girl.
Nope. You got bigger payments coming next month, and it's better to have a little extra cushion than it is to be behind the 8 ball.
Yep. So then I recommend looking at, so you need to know, like, at this point, you should know all of your bills as far as your student loans, but you also need to know, like, all of your bills on a month-to-month basis in general.
You need budgets, and you need budgets for your personal life, and you need budgets for your business.
Yes.
We're going to go on the assumption here that you own versus are associating. If you're associating, it's pretty much just a personal budget because you don't get to control the business budget.
Right. But, you need to kind of figure out with that budget. And if you did the other homework that I threw at the end of go to listen to Hey Berna on YouTube, hope you had a good laugh. I hope you think that was as funny as I did. She talks a lot about budgeting. Her story is, I think she paid off like $50,000 in a year and a half of student loans or something like that.
Awesome.
But, when it comes to budgeting, you have to know what you owe and then figure out like, okay, what do you make? What percentage are you going to put towards retirement? Are you comfortable only putting 5%? Are you comfortable, like, if you're doing 0%, which we don't recommend, but like, okay, if that's what you're doing.
If that's a trade, but that's the thing is like, if it's a trade-off that you're willing to make right now of like, this is going to be the focus of the next 5 years of your life, you then don't. What I tell people to not do is don't live multiple fantasies at the same time without realizing that they're next to each other. So if you're going like, well, I'm going to pay off tons of student debt in the next 5 years, and then after that, I'm going to be just as aggressive at filling my retirement, and then you forget about that you said that, and then a week later you're talking about, well, once I get these student loans paid off, then I'm going to buy a boat and I'm going to go traveling all the time. Those two things aren't going to happen at the same time.
Right.
So you can't go hog wild when you pay off your student loans and also fill up the retirement account that you've been neglecting for 5 years. So just always keep all things in the same headspace if you can.
So then you're figuring out what you're giving, you're figuring out what you're saving. We highly recommend that, just from a philosophical, spiritual standpoint, that there's at least some percentage in your budget that has that. It can be small, but I personally believe that if you don't donate and save when you, quote unquote, don't have money to be doing it,
it's very hard to pick up. And
people are always like, oh, once then I. And it's like, actually, studies show that ain't how it works.
Yeah, you're just, money makes you more of the person that you were before anyway. So if you're not a generous poor person, you're very rarely a generous rich person.
Oh, sad. Okay, so anyways. So then you're going to have your amount that you need to, like, your live on, the rest. So you kind of said 10, 10, 80, whether it's 5, 90, whatever. But you look at both your business and your personal budget, and you know the number that you need to do to pay off your loans, and we're going to keep going with 5 years just because that's what we did, you'll see in a lot of your scenarios that you'll go, these numbers don't add up. Right. Yep. I can't pay $5,000 a month.
I don't have $5,000. I looked at my personal budget and I looked at my business budget, and it comes to $2,600. Now you get to look at your budgets again and look at where you can cut. Where are there where are there efficiencies? And from a business standpoint, you always want to keep in mind that like your ultimate responsibility is to deliver the best experience you can to your patients. Now, that doesn't, well, you may in your head psychologically go like, but they need a tufted couch to sit on in the waiting room. That's how they get the best result.
Shiplap.
Like, no, they don't. Really get to the bottom of what you're ultimately delivering and be as creative as you can. There's always different ways to do things sometimes. And it's what you have of if you are starting out in practice and you have time because you're not seeing a ton of people, but you don't have much money, then it is like, okay, instead of buying a sculpture for the front office, you buy a bicycle and paint it yellow. And that's your eye-catching fun piece in your lobby.
Yeah. Or just don't worry about any of that and just market and make some more money.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, there's no, Instagram wasn't a thing when we first started. So I'll just paint a picture for you. Our practice for the first 5 to 6 years, there was red carpeting, not cute red carpeting.
No, we did not like it. But
No.
also carpet costs money.
It was red carpeting. And it wasn't even like, it really ended up only costing like $400 to recarpet that area. But
The carpet was functional.
it was functional. And it was about 800 square feet,
Yeah.
whole clinic.
Yeah.
So we got up to 300 people a week with red carpet and 800 square feet. And
Yep.
we did bring on a second CA around 150, 200 people a week.
Yep.
So like, you want to know how we made those things? We didn't get distracted by like, ooh, well now I'm seeing 150 people a week, so now I need a bigger space. And we just got more and more efficient in that.
So yeah, so when you look at your budget, it's if you're starting out, it is start as small of a footprint, as small of a budget, as small of overhead as possible. If you're already in a space, we're not saying like break your 2-year lease, but as you look at your 5 to 7 year plan, do you need all your space? So if you got locked into a $3,500 a month lease that you're like, this is gorgeous, but I am barely breaking even, maybe when that lease is up, that's where you find more money to put towards your student loans, is downsizing your space.
I will tell you that, so you can go smaller as long as it's still
got to be
comfortable. Your patients aren't really going to care. Like, this is the thing. I will tell you about that. Back to that red carpeting. So I remember these numbers very specifically because it was hilarious. I had 52 people on the schedule the first day that the place was recarpeted. Okay. And it was very nice. Like, I mean, it wasn't like gold glitter carpet, but like, it was just very nice. It was fantastic compared to red.
Yeah.
Just nice professional carpet. One person out of the 52 people said a damn thing. And you know who it was? It was my landlord's wife. The only person who commented, hey, nice carpet, was the woman who owned the building. And like, hey, thanks for improving
thanks for buying and installing this carpet for us.
Yeah. So it was just like, nobody cared. So, you know, if you are in that scenario where you're like, I really want to do this, but, you know, and who knows, maybe by the time your lease is up, you'll be able to afford staying in the space. But if you've overextended yourself, looking where you can cut back as soon as possible, looking for a cheaper space, it is total.
Yeah.
Patients do not care as much as your ego does.
And on the personal side, it kind of gets to the ego a little bit too, is looking at where you can downsize. If you're renting, do you need all the space that you're in when that lease is up? Can you go smaller? If you are starting out and you don't have a significant other, like what about roommates? You know, these aren't sexy things, but like we said, there's no trick. There's no Rule 47B where like you get to pay off loans without working hard and saving. Like we sound like old fuddy-duddies, but from experience, it's the only thing you can do. If you bought a nice car because you are now a doctor and you thought you deserved a fancy doctor car, maybe you can get out of that. Maybe you can sell that and get a used car and think about what the function of that is. Like the function of you as a doctor is to deliver results for your patients. The function of your transportation is to get you there safely and reliably. Doesn't necessarily need to have heated seats or leather.
Okay, but I will say heated seats. It might need to have heated seats. Okay, but here's the deal. If this is a super non-sexy conversation, but here, let's take this car example. So let's say that you got yourself a car and your car payment is $500 a month.
Sure.
I don't know what a car costs.
Yeah, that's a fairly newish car and decent. Yeah.
And you're like listening to this episode and you're like, hot damn, Lauryn and Kirby are my mentors. They're amazing. I'm going to write an Apple review right now. And then I'm going to go and sell my car and get a car payment that's only $200 a month. And you're like, boo, no heated steering wheel, but I still have heated seats. That doesn't sound sexy. Go to back to your loan calculator and put in an extra $300 a month to your payment. Just that $300 from the car, and look at how many months, if not years, it takes off. So an extra $300 a month, that shit's exciting. When you put that, what happens if I pay an extra $300 a month into that loan calculator? You will see tens of thousands of dollars off the end number that you end up paying just because of that.
Yeah.
So if you just need a little extra
if you want, I did this calculation on something else, but if you bought a $20,000 car, like on a student loan, and it took 20 years to pay it back at average interest, you just bought a $77,000 car.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that absolutely is. So it's really looking at your budget, figuring out like, okay, well, I'm supposed to be paying this much. I can't pay that much. Then figuring out if it's possible. Like, okay, well, what can you downsize in?
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is like, say if for some reason that car is the most important thing and you look at that and you say, I just can't. Maybe you're the person who doesn't need a TV and doesn't need any of the subscriptions or
maybe your sister is doing just fine in life and you can just be an account on her Netflix.
Exactly.
Like, save that $15. Like,
it's kind of ties into the next thing, which the next point that I had written down is fuck the Joneses. Like, people get so obsessed with what other people around them have, and it's so easy to perceive loss or perceive less than for something that if you didn't even know about it, like if you just didn't watch the news or you didn't have any friends who got the iPhone 11 or whatever they're on now, your phone works. Like you don't actually need it, but when you see like 8 of your friends get it in the same week, you go like, God, I think I need that. Like, I'm pretty sure I need a faster processor because, like, my Instagram is loading a little slow.
It's hard because I have literally on previous episodes recommended making sure you have a really nice camera on your phone. Because it does save marketing money.
If it's if that one's truly a business thing, but a lot of times, if you have
last version, you're fine.
So here's the thing. Yeah, we didn't upgrade on this cycle, and I love technology. I always want the newest thing when it comes to tech because that's my passion. We both have...
and when he said the phrase, we didn't upgrade on this latest cycle, he means Galaxy, Android,
Google Pixel phones are what we have now, and we have the Pixel 3 XL, and the 4 is out, and the 4 has a better camera and a better front-facing camera, but we don't have that because you know what? The 3 is still like the second or third best smartphone camera on the market, and you can buy a used one of those now for like $400.
So if you've got an iPhone 6 and an iPhone 12 comes out, guess what? Don't look at the iPhone 12. Look at upgrading to maybe the iPhone 10 or 11. Yeah. Like, those are going to become real cheap.
And a used one, too. Go refurbished wherever you can. But, like, the thing with the Joneses is that, too, of, like, especially when you're a professional. So, like, a lot of the people we're talking to are chiropractors, are veterinarians, or dentists. People around you, including your family, might go, I thought you were a doctor. What are you still driving that, like, 04 Camry for? It's so that you can afford to be a doctor, like, so you can have a life further down the road that's not burdened by debt.
And honestly, what I'll say is because like when you say that, my ego gets like, oh, my personality is definitely the one that would be affected by keeping up with the Joneses the most, is the response to that is a polite, like, I can afford a better car. And maybe you can't, maybe you're only seeing like 5 people a week, but like, being like, yes, you're right. I am a doctor. I can afford a better car. I'm choosing to, while I can at this point in my life, aggressively work towards living a debt-free life. So like if you don't have kids yet, if you're not married yet, like all of a sudden you completely flip the switch, because do you know how few Americans, even like a debt-free life is even on their like radar as a goal? So if you kind of, not saying that if somebody's a dick to you and it's like, I thought you were a doctor, to like make them feel like a really small person. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you wanted a really good comeback, a very honest comeback is like, at this stage, I've prioritized working towards debt-free living. And to that response, they're going to go, oh, good for you.
Yeah.
They're going to be, then all of a sudden you're inspiring and not broke.
Yeah. They were low-level ego shaming you, and with a low-level value shame back, you kind of leave even the playing field.
Bye.
And here's the other thing too, is look at some of the people who are the longest and best at keeping and making money. So you know who Warren Buffett is, right?
I mean, yes.
He is one of the richest men in the history of the world.
Yep.
And one of the best investors and one of the smartest people about money. I think he still lives in the house he bought in like the 50s. And he drove the same car from like 1960 to like 1980.
Wow.
Because he understands the value of compound interest. So for him, it wasn't paying down debt. He was aggressively staying debt free because he paid off those things very fast. But then also understood, if I have $20,000 right now to play with, and I put that in a car that will go to zero value in 10 years, or I put that $20,000 into investing in my future and into my investments, then that becomes millions of dollars 30, 40, 50 years down the road. So like, if you're looking to people, if you want to compare to someone, you can compare to rappers and rock stars who have burned through millions of dollars and now have very little to show for it in most cases, or you can look at the second richest man in the history of the United States and follow his example.
Well, I was talking to Denisa when I was at the IF gathering.
Denisa Weber, for you who don't.
In Dallas.
She was on one of our episodes.
And she, her practice is in a very beautiful suburb of Dallas. And I mean, it is impressive type of thing. It's a gorgeous suburb coming from like Rice Lake, Wisconsin. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never seen so much money in one area. But I'm trying to think, like, I think this is okay to share. But she said that her area has one of the highest suicide rates for like white men in all of Texas. I think that, like, I'm sure there's all sorts of stats around that, and I probably might have. But basically, it was like men committing suicide because they couldn't handle the stress of like keeping up with the Joneses and like just not being okay with downsizing. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
It literally never ends. I mean, hear that with Wall Street crashes. You hear about traders jumping out of windows and committing suicide. And it's that same thing of like, yes, you just lost your job, but you actually probably have $1 million that you could live on for the rest of your life if you'd be willing to move to a small town. But that's not what it was ever about. It is, you only see the people around you. You only compare yourself to those people. And the other thing that's the perfect example of people who have more than almost anyone else could ever imagine are still so stressed. And that's the nature of the hedonic treadmill. Mm-hmm. Billionaires still compete with other billionaires. Mm-hmm. You would think if I had $20 billion, I would have nothing to worry about. The thing you worry about is the guy who has $25 billion. That's nuts.
Well, this is why, I think, gosh, I should have done research on this, but like Jesus talks more about money in the New Testament than almost any other subject. And so like I've done a lot of, because we do well. Mm-hmm. We do very, very well. And when he says shit like it's harder for a man to get into a rich man to get into heaven than like a camel to go through the eye of a needle, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need to understand because I would really like to go to heaven. And I think I might hand raise qualify as a rich man by standards. So talk to me more. So I've done, a lot of looking into is money bad? Is it that, and it's like, no, it's those problems that we were talking about of the hedonic treadmill and like not being able to see your worth until you're at this point. It's all of that mental fuckery around money. What is why it's that low vibration. Money can have a good vibration. Very wealthy people can go through the eye of a needle, but you just have to see it.
What role does it play in your life?
Are you worshiping money?
Yeah. So
and that's the problem, is that like a lot of times we place making more money ahead of donating, ahead of being good to people, ahead of, and it becomes higher than our integrity. And that's the problem, is you are worshiping, whether you realize it or not, the dollar.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the other Jesus parables is a rich man comes to him and asks how to get into heaven, that he keeps all the laws and all of that. And Jesus knows him and knows what's in his heart. And he just says, sell all your possessions. And the man walks away. Mm-hmm. If God is telling you how to have heaven, or whatever that means to you, if that's somewhere else in white fluffy clouds, or if that's internal peace, and you hear the message, sell all your things and you will be happy, and you go, yeah, I'm going to just stick with what I'm doing, like that he knew that held that role.
And anytime we talk about that passage, I'm always like, ugh, but I really want the Peloton treadmill. Like, can there be an easier?
Well, and I've read analysis of that, of like, that's not the thing for everyone, but Jesus knew for that man, that was the thing that was stopping him from engaging with his people, with God, with everything. So it's know what role it has in your life. And if these things, when you're going through the step of like what to cut and worrying about the Joneses, if it hurts really bad, or if you go, absolutely not, no way I will.
Ooh, those are always the things to look at the
That's
most.
the thing where you're just like, whoa, did I just like scream out loud, like, you're not taking my Escalade? Like,
did I just say that out loud?
So you got to find out what you're attached to. You got to not worry about, or wherever you can, try not to worry about comparing yourself to others. And the other thing to remember in comparison to others is you don't know what's happening behind their closed doors. So your neighbor might have all the toys and they might be in the same profession as you. You might be, a chiropractor who lives in the same neighborhood as another chiropractor. And you're like, how are they doing this? Why do they have 2 homes and a boat and I see them traveling?
Oh yeah, counting other people's money. That's got to be a sin somewhere too. Like people do that all the time. Okay, I'm trying to figure out, because they can't possibly make more than X, and that house costs this, and
for all you know, they have a rich relative who left them money, or they're buried in debt and they're fighting all the time about it. Or they're super
happy.
They're super happy right now, and it's all going to come to bear when they're 60 and they can't retire. You just can't know.
Yeah.
So you cannot worry yourself with that.
You got to put blinders on.
Yeah. You have to know your situation, what you value, what hurts, what helps, and just keep marching forward.
And then just be comfortable that this is the decision you've made, and just tell Felicia, like, I'm working towards living debt free. All right, so this topic is super interesting, and I know you're all getting a lot out of it, and I promise we're going to return in just a minute. But first, I have to tell you about some of my favorite deals, including one new one I got for you all on our She Slays savings page. So first is my favorite artist and chiropractor, Sandy Arthur. She is the owner behind Sandy Spines. So check out her really beautiful art on either her Instagram at Sandy Spines or her Etsy page. You're going to get 10% off her entire order at checkout just by mentioning She Slays. And also, if she's got any stickers in stock, she's going to throw a couple of those in for you just because you're my friend. So if you've listened to episode 6, you know that one of the biggest mistakes I made was waiting to add a practice coach to my life. It's one of those investments that once I did it, I seriously never looked back. It's really great to have someone to bounce your ideas off of, and especially someone who's already made the mistakes and knows how to fix it and do it right. Someone who sees the things you're not even aware you might be doing wrong yet, or how you could improve. So you've probably noticed I've had a few coaches on the show because, like I said, I really like chiropractic coaching. And if you've listened to episode 29, you've already met one of the amazing women I recommend frequently, Dr. Nona Javid. She's the founder of the part-time $1 Million Cash Practice.
right? And you thought She Slays Savings was hard to say. So Dr. Nona is this brilliant and powerful woman who helps you build a practice to support the life you want, not a life that gets the leftovers of your business. So if you feel like you're a slave to insurance companies, not getting paid what you're worth, or spending too many hours in your clinic instead of living your life, she's your girl. So all listeners of the show will not only get a free 1-hour consult with her, but also $300 off. Yes, you heard that, $300 off your first month of coaching with her. So check out our She Slays Savings tab on our website to get more info about Dr. Nona and her part-time $1 million cash practice. That's sheslayspodcast.com/SheSlaysSavings and click on Dr. Nona's beautiful face. So one more for today is my favorite techie thing we added to our practice in 2019, and that's the personalized clinic app from Connected and Inspired Media. It's a super well-made app for all prenatal and pediatric clinics that's a great resource for all of your patients. It's full of educational material, exercises, rehab, brain exercises, stretches. You're going to love it. So for more information, check out our She Slays Savings page on our website. And of course, mention She Slays when signing up and save 20% off your first month. Okay, that's it for now. Let's get back to the show.
So we have looked at our numbers of what we need to pay. We have looked at our personal and our business budget. We found where we can cut. We have done that with an attitude of we're going to do what's good for us and we're going to let other people do what's good for them and not worry about it. Next, we need to talk about where some of that extra money is going to come from and what do we do as we move on. So we built this.
You're talking about hustling on the weekend?
Actually, I was talking about if something windfalls and raises and hustling on the weekend. Any extra money.
I was making a joke about prostituting.
Oh, I thought you were saying like get an extra job or drive an Uber, which
Totally
is also
good.
totally good.
Yes. This is what you said.
But
drive an Uber.
Also prostitution. I mean,
No.
your body, your choice. I have no problem with it. It's illegal, but unless you're in certain counties in Nevada.
Okay, but anyways, not good for your brand.
No. Sex work and chiropractic are.
Let's get back to the point. Okay.
So extra money. So say you're doing a good job. Your plan was that you were going to make $100,000 as a family, and then your spouse, who's not a chiropractor, just has a normal 9-to-5, gets a $25,000 raise. Let's go buy a boat, right?
Nope. Don't think so, Tom.
Tom, you don't get a boat.
No boat, Tom. Paying off that loans. So all of a sudden, that extra $25,000 a year goes towards
It's not loan money.
loan money.
So that's where you go like, okay, I was going to pay $4,000 a month, and now I have an extra $25,000 for the year, $2,000 more a month towards loans. You built a budget for your family that you could live on your $100,000, and now this bonus money is bonus money. You stay in your same budget. Your budget doesn't grow with your income until you don't have loans anymore.
Rich great aunt dies, $10,000. What you doing with it?
Putting it on that loan.
Yes, you are.
Wait, buying a boat?
Nope.
Is that what I was supposed to say?
No boat, Tom.
So the same thing with tax refunds, with if your business performed better than you thought it was going to, all of that is immediately it. It's kind of like the Dave Ramsey debt snowball thing of like, you pay off a debt and that you don't stop paying money into debt. You just take that and you roll it into the next thing. It's just on the other side of it. Any new income you have goes towards the loan immediately. You don't start spending money that you don't have yet.
So let's talk about that on a micro scale.
Okay.
Because we're talking about on a big scale of like, if you find you have an extra $10,000 in a year, I want to talk about it if you find you have an extra $50 in 2 weeks. So a lot of times when we're talking about budgets, it's done in like month numbers of like, if you have $1,200 of yada yada a month. So one of the keys, whether you, kind of whoever you study under for debt repayment, I don't know. I have yet to come across one, and there might be one, that they all recommend either looking at your month and what you owe in either week by week or bi-weekly at most. Is it bi-weekly or bi-monthly?
Bi-weekly.
Okay, so every 2 weeks.
Yes.
So like with a paycheck type of thing. So let's say this. Okay, so let's say that you, whether you're an associate or you own your own, you pay yourself and you make $2,000 every 2 weeks. Okay, so you make $4,000.
Killing it. You're doing really good then.
Is that too much math?
Yeah, it's like $104,000 a year.
I thought 2,000 times 2 is $4,000.
Oh, no, every
a
2
month.
weeks. Never mind. Yep, you're good.
Okay, I'm going, every 2 weeks.
I thought you were saying every week. I was like, 2,000 a week? Jeez,
No.
you're doing good.
So you're making $2,000 every 2-week paycheck. And you have figured out, like, including you have your debt amount in there. You know how to live on $2,000 a week, okay? Again, 2 weeks, sorry. So then let's say you get to the end of 2 weeks and you, for some reason, only spent like $1,700. You paid your student loan, you paid your electricity, you paid your car, you paid all this stuff, and you only spent $1,700 in this 2-week period. Extra $300 going towards a boat, Kirby?
No.
No.
Nope.
You are going to do an additional loan payment. So here's the exciting part that I'm going to need your help on, because I don't know how to explain it. So basically, let's say that you figured out that you're going to be paying $3,000 a month towards your student loans. You're getting after them. And of that $1,800, oh, that's bad math. I'm going to get lost in this. Let's say $1,500 is interest. Okay? Mm-hmm. So anything in that 30-day period, because they bill you once a month, that you pay over $1,500 goes towards principal. So if you can squeak an extra $20 in that month, that everything over that in that 30 days goes towards principal, and that
pays you back long term.
Huge.
Because once it's gone from principal, then they no longer charge interest on it. Mm-hmm. So that, it seems like nothing. It seems like $20, but say it was going to take you 10 years. $20 of compounding interest is going to eventually cost you a lot of money.
So break it down. If you have the ability to break your life down into weekly, so you can look up it's like the envelope system basically. So what you would do is, let's say you pay $400 a month in rent. Mm-hmm. You would, air quotes here, pay $100 in rent every week instead of $400 once a month. Mm-hmm. So that's how you would micro budget on a weekly basis. So again, if you were paying bad at math, $2,000 a month in student loans, you would say, okay, on my weekly budget, I'm paying $500 a week towards student loans. And you can literally pay that if you want, as long as
you can set them up depending on your lender and stuff.
You can literally, sometimes you get, but, and again, if you get to the end of the week and you have an extra $10, throw it on that student loan payment.
And that gets to the next point really well of when you're doing these things and you're focusing on a weekly and biweekly and monthly basis of what you're doing and where you've saved a little extra and where you put more towards it, you're hurting on some of this. Some of this is depriving yourself. So celebrate your payback wins. Celebrate that you did an extra $50 or $100. Now, how you celebrate might be the cheapest champagne in the world. I'm not saying go buy a bottle of Veuve because, don't go spend $60 on a bottle of champagne because you paid an extra $60 down on your student loan. But this gets to a point that we haven't really talked about is you and your spouse need to be completely on the same page on this, because this is serious, serious stuff. This is change your life, drive every decision of your life. So if you are...
We got a question a while back from a Dr. Amy that we haven't answered yet, but it does deserve a whole episode of so this is assuming you and your spouse are on the same page and what to do if you're not. We'll approach that. But this kind of has to be this, because if you're going I saved an extra $40 and I put it towards a loan, and Tom is getting... Damn it, Tom!
Getting these boat brochures and... he's already bought his... I'm trying to think of what people on boats wear.
Bait. Oh, they buy bait?
They buy bait. I was thinking more of he's got a captain's hat. Then you got a problem. This isn't going to quite work out if he's eyeing your extra $50 and going ooh, that's a new fishing rod. Mm-hmm. So you got to be on the same page. And when you are on the same page, celebrating those little things. When you talk about your week... And it's not, I haven't gone out for coffee in 2 weeks, but instead it's, I found a way to get $50 more towards the loan. We are that much closer. Like, we are on pace. We are doing it. I am so proud of one of our associates and her husband have been working so hard at paying down their debt. They got to post on Instagram the other day that they are now basically small debt free. I think they have a mortgage and student loans is it. They don't owe anything on credit cards. They paid off both of their cars, and they both have decent cars, like good, not super, super fancy, but like nice functional cars. And they are so proud of themselves. And that is the kind of thing of watching them celebrate is what you need to do. Because if you're only seeing the downside.
I think they went vegetarian to pay off.
To pay off.
So like it's kind of, I mean, Dr. Katie loves animals. Oh my gosh. So I think it was not like a hard push, but like they basically
said like, yeah, this is where we're spending money. Yeah.
That level of protein on they eat rice and beans, a lot of lunches and stuff like that.
Well, and Quinn's like a fitness trainer and bodybuilder at certain points. So when he's in bodybuilding mode and he's like, yeah, so when we're done with dinner, I'm going to go home and eat a pizza. Yeah. So he could spend some money if he was eating high-end protein.
Yeah. So, yeah. Be on the same page.
Yep. So let's do a quick, I mean, this is already getting to be a somewhat long episode in its own right, but let's talk to people who
are in school.
Are still in school.
Yep. Like, you ain't off the hook.
You are not off the hook.
Because a lot of your loans are probably not subsidized.
And here's the other thing too, is this is hard learned lessons for us that we've talked a little bit about because we didn't do a lot of this while Lauren was in school, and I really wish we would have.
Me too. We kind of talk about hashtag mistakes I made.
Yeah.
I went to Vegas. I mean, I didn't gamble, but I had no reason to be going to Vegas for spring break.
And we would go out to, I was working and I didn't have student loans. I only went to undergraduate. I didn't have student loans and I got a good job out of school. And so I was living the life of someone who is single, like only on my own, no loans, and thinking I'm fancy. And you lived it right alongside me on student loan money.
Yep.
Like that was a big, big mistake for us of living like we had it when we didn't have it. And every dollar that we borrowed, we paid back with interest, literally a lot. And that was even with a 5-year repayment. I can't imagine how much we could have saved.
Yeah. So what can students do?
So
they have to know their money too. So like this is, you do the homework from episode 1 of call and say like, okay, so how much is my loan payment with you? And when's the next amount? Ask them what would happen. So let's say that you're on the phone and they saying like, yep, so you're set up to get, you're approved for a $5,000 loan quarterly. Every 4 months, you're basically going to get another $5,000. Ask them what happens if I have an extra $1,000 at the end of that quarter. How do I pay that back?
Ask even first, what happens if I don't take that $1,000? Because I think, and I'm not sure if this is with every loan, is I think some of the loans, when it's issued, you get a fee on top of it that's automatically added to your principal. So if you borrow $5,000, say there was like a 3% fee, you would then have an extra $150 on your total. So you borrow $5,000, you now owe $5,150, and even if you give $1,000 back, it's still $40,150.
And it starts collecting interest.
Yeah, depending on the structure.
So if you calculate your budget, because you guys should be doing this budget. So let's say that you realize like, okay, they're going to give me $5,000 every quarter. Can you live on $1,500? So ask this question: what happens if I only ask for $2,000? If I qualify for more and I need to take out more for some reason, can I in that quarter? Yep. I don't know what the answer is going to be. Yeah. But ask them. Ask like, okay, I qualify for $5,000. If I only take $2,000, but I find like in another month and a half, I actually do need, your car broke down. Like you need that. Do you have access to it?
And if they say like, no, you got to take it all. Maybe the first quarter you take the full $5,000 and then you only spend $2,000, but now you always have that $3,000 cushion and you go, so now I'm only going to borrow $2,000 each quarter because I know I have this in my savings account that is untouchable. You have to have really black and white rules around what is touchable and untouchable in your money. Yep. And with that in mind, like with the borrowing, like I said, if you are going to take 20 years to pay back a loan and you're in school and you're like, I mean, I have all this money. They're offering me all this money. I could get a decent car. I could get a $20,000 car. If you pay that back over 20 years, that's a $77,000 car. That is not a $20,000 car. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. Have fun with your friends, make those connections, but those vacations and those cars and the nicer apartment that's closer to the coffee shop, it might be...
You didn't need roommates if you... Yeah.
Oh, well, that's one of the other things. Roommates. Have roommates.
You have to have roommates.
Dividing your expenses instead of you, because especially with things like every place, if you're a student, you probably need internet at home to do your work. Mm-hmm. And you need internet because everyone needs internet all the time. Mm-hmm. It's just how things are. If you are by yourself, you're paying $100 cable and internet bill or whatever on your own. Roommates, divide it by 4. Rent, divide it by 4. Heating bill, divided by 4. You have to. There's just, unless you have rich parents who are covering all this, in which case you're not getting the student loans anyway.
Right. And for those that are listening and they're like, well, I'm married and I have a kid. Okay, these are just suggestions that we're throwing out there. I'm not saying, but guess what? There are lots of people that have, in a bigger city, who have, a furnished basement that basically they've turned their house into a duplex. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying put your child's life at risk by moving into a ghetto situation, but there are options. You don't have to live in a 2-bedroom home. You don't have to buy a home. You can live small. You can live in a 1-bedroom apartment, bare minimum. You're a student. Live like a student.
Absolutely. Take this time. And so many of your fellow students are in the same boat, so you don't need to show off, thankfully. You kind of get around to some of that, living up with the Joneses thing. The next thing, again, a thing that we didn't do with you, but would have been smart, is get a job.
Yep. I talk about this a lot, that I wish I would have had a job.
It's so hard, and it's hard for me as an outsider because I saw how hard you worked at chiropractic school. It is very, very hard. First and foremost, yes, you need to learn your trade. You need to learn this information. That's what's best for your patients. And it would have been extremely hard on you. But, and we're not talking about 20 hours a week. If you can get a job, so the reason I always recommend getting a job is not even because you might go holy cow, I worked however many hours over this 2-week period and I got a paycheck for $160, because realistically, although waitressing, but, you're probably making $10 an hour or something like that. And if you're talking about working 8 to 10 hours a week, it's not a big paycheck, but what it does is it really shifts your mindset into being grounded and connected to what it takes to earn a dollar. Yes. And
so it is more of having a job, you are going to be less likely at going to the Cheesecake Factory on Friday night because you've been studying all day and my total was, $26 plus a tip. That means not as much when you're just completely if your reference point is I get $5,000 every 4 weeks or 4 months instead of my paycheck is $160 and I just spent 35 of it on mediocre egg rolls at Cheesecake Factory. So it really keeps you just much more grounded and connected to the value of a dollar.
It also keeps you a little bit busy too. If you only have...
You're probably working Friday night.
Yeah, you're probably working Friday night. That's the best shift. You still get to meet up with your friends after. You still get to have some fun, but you aren't in that all the time mode of the people who also don't have jobs are kind of in that same thing of we all get a bunch of money. We all hang out all day. We, when classes are done Friday, we're going to go grab dinner and then we're going to go out to the bars or whatever. If you're all together all the time and you're all spending money, you just kind of get wrapped up in that wave. Mm-hmm. If you're the person who has to go work a shift and then you say, I'm done at midnight, I'll meet up with you guys, you get to have the end of the night fun and be...
You're also going to end up being everybody's DD.
That's true.
They're going to be sweet.
Well, then you put the Uber sticker in your front window and you charge them. Side hustle.
Side hustle. We call that second money.
The other thing with the job, and this is something I've heard from a couple of people, is, so you can go for the job that's most lucrative, which is probably going to be some kind of server. Tips will be good, bartender or server. One of the things that can save you money as you're starting a practice, though, is if you can get a position in a well-running chiropractic clinic as like a front desk person. So if your ideal clinic, if you are a, you want to be a pediatric specialist and there's a great clinic in the area of your school that you can go work at,
Even if it's just Saturday mornings, they do a Saturday morning shift, like you are likely to get that job because,
they want someone who cares. They want someone who knows the industry, who's not just, going to be scheduling, but actually gets what's going on there. And you get to learn so much. If we lived in a town where there was a chiropractic school or where someone could commute to, they would get an education working for our clinic based on all the things that we've learned, that our front desk people have learned and taught us, that our associates have learned. You just pick up so much stuff that how many things in school where they taught you in a classroom went in one ear and out the other because you didn't see why it mattered?
Yep, absolutely. Is this going to be tested? How are they going to ask the question on the test?
Yeah.
That's all that.
But when you're in that working environment and you get it, and you also get to save yourself a lot of mistakes. If you're in a place and you go like, oh, they don't take insurance and this is why, or they do take insurance and they use this software, but they always hate it and they talk about how they wish they could switch, you don't have to go with that bad software. You can switch before you even start. So it's an education. You're being paid for extra education, and it keeps you busy and it helps you learn.
Yep. Yep. Give it back. Give that money back. Don't take it.
And with all of this gets really heavy. And then, like we said in the beginning, it can be such a burden. But remember that there's a lot of people in the same boat. There's a lot of people around you who are going through similar things. You're absolutely not alone. It can be a long road, but it's a worthwhile road. Being on the other side of it, not that we have everything figured out with money, but I will say it is one of the best things we ever did, psychologically and personally. To not have that hanging over our heads, I don't regret a second of it, even if it wasn't financially, numerically, the best way to go about it.
I agree. Good job. You did it.
Good job, you.
Okay, so this probably stimulated a lot of questions, comments. I will tell you that I don't know if we can answer a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. Like if you have specific questions, a lot of times it takes a specific answer. So but we want to know if you've paid off your loans and you're listening to this, what did you do that we didn't? Like if we didn't say something that's like, oh, duh, or if we don't know about, some loophole 42.
Yeah, loophole 42B. It involves giving away puppies. It was written by Jason.
Jason. So we want to hear it. And yeah, we know that the amount you owe, it is not your worth. Like it does not define you as a doctor. People who owe less or who have paid it off are not better than you. So that's what I have to say.
Good luck. Hang in there. Keep working towards it. Just do the next right thing.
Yes, as always. All right, Cheese Slayers, love you so much, and we will see you next week.
Bye.